All right, good afternoon. We're going to, whatever time you're watching this, we're going to discuss and look at Chapter 19 in the Glickman book in this presentation, looking at action research and identifying this idea of action research and how it can be used as a supervisory tool within our schools. So, we'll gallop through some slides here. I got quite a few. I've only got 15 minutes of record time, so hopefully we'll make it all happen. So, obviously the first thing we need to understand is what action research is. And really action research is this idea of a study conducted by colleagues in the school with the notion of how looking for ways to improve the function of their school, the function of their institution. Here's another definition: the process by which practitioners attempt to study their problems scientifically in order to guide, correct, and evaluate their decisions and actions. Another definition from Segor: a disciplined process of inquiry conducted by and for those taking the action. The primary reason for engaging in action research is to assist the actor in improving and refining his or her actions. So it's this systematic way of evaluating and examining your practice or the school's practice. That's what action research is all about, and that's what we try to achieve. And I think it's important to understand what the kind of research that people in academia, like myself and my colleagues in my school and across the university, engage in is relate in comparison to action research. So traditional research is typically done by someone outside the setting, and where action research is inside the practice, done by the practitioners, right? We conduct traditional research to try to develop new knowledge, but action research is all about improvement of practice. So we may learn along the way in engaging in action research, but this is about this additional kind of function. Traditional research is getting better understandings of phenomena, develop hypotheses or test hypotheses. And this is, again, action research then is about the practical. Understand the problem, guide actions, and evaluating results. And then finally, in these comparisons, standard for quality in traditional research is peer-reviewed of methods and results. So when we conduct research at the university level, we are sending that research out to be evaluated by our peers. But the standard for quality within action research is whether you got the results that you were after. You identified a problem, you took some steps to mitigate the problem, were you successful in that? Traditional research tends to be people within the profession, the audience tends to be people within the profession, with the government, sometimes private agencies, foundations, whether that's Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation or W.T. Grant Foundation, various others. But the primary audience for action research lies within the school, within the people, within the institution that are affected there. So one of the things that I think is important for me to say at this point, and I'll probably say it again later in the presentation, is the fact that when we think action research, this is the kind of thing that's kind of this notion around, we use other terms, right? We use other phrases. Data-driven decision-making. Ultimately, that's really this notion of systematically examining what's happening inside of our school, making adjustments, and then systematically reflecting on those adjustments, the outcomes from those adjustments, to see if we ended up with something different. We ended up with the desired result. So when we talk about this idea of using data inside of our schools, that can also be this idea of action research. It really is, instead of saying, well, this is the way we've always done it, or I'm going to blow up everything that I've done before and do something completely new. This is the systematic process to try to identify. My dad was an engineer, and so when we would work on projects at home, he would always tell me, you only adjust one variable at a time. So if we had an lawnmower engine that was running rough, we had there's two screws on the carburetor of your lawnmower engine. You know, I would want to adjust both of them and make adjustments to both of them. And he's like, no, you adjust one variable at a time. So we'd make one screw adjustment and see what happened. And then if that didn't get our full desired result, we'd move the other one. Then eventually we'd get the engine running the way we wanted. It was very systematic, very pragmatic. It's this idea of scientific method, and I put that in quotes because I think within the dealings within humans, it's very difficult to apply fully the scientific method, but it's a systematic approach to addressing our problems, and that's really what action research is all about, and can be a really valuable tool to engage with within the way in which you process and move forward within your school. So the next thing we're going to talk about are kind of the phases and the ways in which we go about conducting action research and what those phases mean. Here are the 5 phases that have been identified for conducting action research. Identify a focus, conduct a needs assessment, design an action plan, carry it out, and then evaluate and revise. Okay, so in phase 1, where are we, right, as a unit? Do we want to look at this from a school standpoint, entire building? Is this about a particular department? Is this a particular team? Maybe it's just the 10th grade teachers, 10th grade English teachers, right, that are in need of improvement. So where are we as a unit in need of improvement? So what are the things that we're doing? Not identify the things we're doing well, but what are the things we'd like to do better as a unit? And typically, again, in our current age, this focuses around notions of student test results. All right, so why is it that our 6th grade, in our 6th grade math scores, standard 7, 8, and 9, we seem to not be performing well? And not just in this previous year, but for the previous several years, we've seen 7, 8, and 9. Those 3 standards we have not done well with. So that's identifying a focus for which we're going to conduct an action research. So gather data. Step 2, conduct a needs assessment. Gather data on the focus area in order to better understand the problem and do particular solutions. So it's not action research to say 7, 8, and 9 are where we traditionally have done poorly on, so we're going to put more focus on 7, 8, and 9. And we need to understand that more. What are 7, 8, and 9? What are the key background skills necessary for students to have success in 7, 8, and 9? Where do those fall within the curriculum? Why is it that those 3 standards, we look at all the elements that are involved there? Because quite honestly, the math, within the math standards, 7, 8, and 9, standard 7, 8, and 9, and obviously I'm making these numbers up and things, they could be simply, those could be the story problem standards, right? Which means that we may actually have a literacy issue that's affecting our math results. And that those standards, that leads to a better understanding of the problem and what we're going to do. So maybe we're starting to teach kids how to read math problems better. That's what needs to happen versus the actual mechanics of working the problems. It's about how to read. So this is this idea of really digging in and trying to understand what's happening. We don't necessarily do this very well. We tend to identify a focus and then jump right into action, right? We design a plan, we jump right over 2 and go to 3 and 4, and 3 we do very quickly as well, right? So this design and action plan, setting up the activities to show whether the identified problem has been addressed or not. So this is about setting the achievement targets, the goal. If we want these standards to improve, how are we going to do that? What are we going to do along the way to see if we're making progress towards those? We're going to actually write research questions that we want to investigate and answer. This is part of the systematizing, right? This is not just that we want to improve. We want to improve. No, but what strategies can we employ to help students engage and improve results in standard 7, 8, 9, right? Here are the things that we're going to do, the interventions. how are we going to assess? Obviously, the state test becomes the largest one, but what other assessments are we going to do to see if whether we're making progress on those? Are we going to use some peer observation to help with the implementation of new teaching strategies? Because that may have been one of the interventions that we decided on, and then dividing the tasks, right? So we have a team, we have a group, who's going to do what. It's not all, that shouldn't all fall on one person unless they're conducting this action research solely with their classroom, which some teachers do, which is fine. Next is go to it, right? Carry out the plan. You've outlined the plan, you've systematically outlined the plan. That plan should have benchmarks and timelines that you can then address and look at. And so you carry out the plan. And then we tend to jump into action very quickly. We make some plans, we jump into 4 very quickly, but we don't do this very well. So this is this idea of, and again, this is part of the systematizing of this process. So we get results along the way, we get results at the end, we're going to analyze, we're going to see what's happening. Maybe we notice that there seems to be starting to develop new trends around 7, 8, 9, that certain populations of students in particular courses, particular gender, a particular socioeconomic background or racial profile leads to particular kinds of certain kinds of outcomes. We report that out, and that leads to plan for future action. So it feeds us back up into a loop, right? So here's this loop, right? Identify a classroom problem, and this could be a school-wide problem, right? But then we're going to developing and implementing an action research plan. So we develop the plan. So the first square, identifying a classroom problem or a school-wide problem, that's phase 1 and 2. Phase 3 is the developing and implementing, and 4 is there. So 1 and 2, 3 and 4. Collecting and analyzing data is 5. 5 continues on to using and sharing of results that then feeds back into the identification and feeds this loop, right? Here's another kind of diagram of the way action research could play out. So we have a planning stage, we have an acting stage, we have a developing stage, or reflecting stage, right? So we ID the topic, we collect some data, analyze the data. This is this phase 2, right? Then we develop an action plan, and then we act on that plan, and then we loop it back around. So assisting action research. Like when we talk about professional development, poor design, poor scheduling, lack of staff, I hate the phrase buy-in, but it's here, and lack of alignment will hurt the process. So it can't be something that was just come in and say, hey, we're going to do action research. We've got to develop these ideas, we've got to design it well, we've got to give time, we have people see value in doing this. And so teachers need basic preparations. As administrators, we need to be providing the resources. They need opportunities to share. So maybe you do action research forum at the end where people are maybe created some poster presentations that they share what's happening, or you lace these in within your staff meetings. So let's say we did departments, and so we have a couple of departments that are in the last couple of months of school. A couple of departments each meeting present their results. Running out of time, so I'm gonna gallop here. So remember, it can be smaller units than just school-wide. So integrating action research with our other tasks. Conduct a need assessment. This is involve them, brainstorm with them, and think about the ways in which the other areas of supervision that we've talked about, right? So this direct assistance, this group development, professional development, curriculum development, they're all right there. And so here you can see a diagram where action research can play in. I've got about 30 seconds left, so let me say the following. Action research is again this notion of systematizing and being very intentional about what we do and how we do it and how we create improvement in our plan. And oftentimes we've missed that intentional action. All right, 4 seconds. Have a great week. We'll talk to you later. Bye.